The screaming started before Anna even opened her eyes. She rolled out of her sleeping bag and grabbed her field scanner. Still groggy from the previous night's research, the jungle around their camp buzzed with morning insects, but underneath that natural chorus was something else. Something that made her alien crewmates panic. "Shadowmaw nest," whispered Crix, the blue-scaled navigator. His forearm shook as he pointed toward a cluster of dark trees. "We leave now. We leave right now." Anna looked through her scanner's display. Heat signatures showed at least 12 large shapes moving away from their location, heading deeper into the forest. But there was something else. One small, barely warm signature remained motionless in what looked like a cave structure. "They're leaving," Anna said. "Look, the pack is moving away from us." "Because they know we found their nest," hissed Vorth, the insect-like communications officer. "They will return with more. We must go to the ship immediately." Dr. Reed had spent 3 years studying apex predators across the galaxy. She knew the stories about shadowmaws. Entire space stations evacuated when just one adult was spotted in a star system. Planets abandoned after pack sightings. The creatures were the stuff of nightmares, standing 8 feet tall with claws that could slice through titanium and jaws that could crush steel. But that heat signature bothered her. Too small to be an adult, not moving at all. "Give me 10 minutes, she told her team. "I want to check something." "Absolutely not," Crix's translator box crackled. Protocol 7 clearly states no investigation of predator nesting sites without full military support. Anna was already walking toward the trees. Behind her, she heard Vorth clicking frantically into his communicator, probably calling their ship. Let him. She had her sidearm and her scanner. More importantly, she had her curiosity. The cave opening was hidden behind thick vines. Anna pushed through and immediately smelled something wrong. Blood. Death. And underneath it all, something that reminded her of the puppy shelters back on Earth. Her scanner beeped softly. The heat signature was just ahead, around a corner in the natural cave tunnel. Anna moved carefully, her boots silent on the rocky ground. When she turned the corner, her breath caught. The nest was a massacre. Adult shadowmaw bodies lay scattered across the cave floor, their dark fur matted with dried blood. But in the center of the carnage, curled up next to what was probably its mother, was the smallest shadowmaw Anna had ever seen. It was barely the size of a house cat, covered in soft gray fur instead of the adult's midnight black. One of its tiny legs was bent at an odd angle, and it breathed in shallow, rapid puffs. When Anna's light hit its face, 2 large golden eyes opened and stared at her. The hatchling tried to stand, failed, then opened its mouth and let out what was clearly meant to be a terrifying roar. Instead, it sounded like a kitten with a sore throat. Anna knew she should run. Every piece of training, every protocol, every safety regulation told her to back away and let nature take its course. This was a baby shadowmaw. In a few months, if it survived, it would be big enough to bite her head off. In a year, it could single-handedly destroy a research station. Instead, she knelt down and slowly extended her hand. The hatchling sniffed, then tried to roar again. This time, the sound was even weaker. It was clearly dehydrated and hadn't eaten in days. Without its pack, it would be dead within hours. "Hey there, little guy," Anna whispered. "You're hurt, aren't you?" The hatchling tilted its head, studying her. Its ears, oversized for its tiny head, twitched as it listened to her voice. Anna had seen this behavior before in Earth predators. Curiosity overcoming fear. She moved closer, and the hatchling didn't back away. When she was close enough, she gently reached out and touched its uninjured front paw. The fur was incredibly soft, softer than anything she'd felt. The hatchling looked down at her hand, then back up at her face. "Anna," Crick's voice echoed from outside the cave. "Anna, we are leaving. The ship is ready for immediate departure." The hatchling's ears flattened against its head at the sound of the alien voice. It pressed closer to Anna, making a small whimpering sound that broke her heart. Without thinking, Anna scooped the tiny creature into her arms. It weighed almost nothing, all fur and fragile bones. The moment she lifted it, the hatchling curled against her chest and made a sound she'd never heard from any shadowmaw recording. It was almost like purring. "I know," she whispered. "I know you're scared. It's going to be okay." When Anna emerged from the cave carrying the hatchling, the reaction was immediate. Crix fell backwards, all 4 arms windmilling. Vorth's insect eyes went wide and his mandibles clicked in rapid distress signals. Their human pilot, Pete, just stared with his mouth open. "Put it down," Crix whispered. "Put it down right now." The hatchling lifted its head and looked at the assembled group. Anna felt it tense in her arms, and for a moment she wondered if it was about to attack. Instead, it burrowed deeper against her chest and made the purring sound again. "It's just a baby," Anna said. "It's injured and alone. Its whole family is dead. That thing will grow up to kill us all," Forth clicked. "Shadowmaws cannot be tamed, cannot be controlled, cannot be trusted." "Look at it," Anna said, gently stroking the hatchling's head. Its eyes drifted closed and it seemed to relax completely in her arms. "Does this look like a killing machine to you?" Pete stepped forward cautiously. "Anna, maybe we should think about this. I mean, the regulations exist for a reason." The hatchling opened one golden eye and looked at Pete. For a moment, Anna held her breath. Then the little creature closed its eye again and nuzzled against her. "We're taking it back to the ship," Anna decided. "I'll take full responsibility." As they walked back to their landing site, Anna felt the hatchling's tiny heart beating against her chest. Behind them, Crix and Vorth whispered frantically to each other in their native languages. Pete kept looking over his shoulder as if expecting adult shadowmaws to come charging out of the jungle. But Anna wasn't worried about the pack anymore. She was thinking about the way the hatchling had looked at her, with curiosity instead of fear, about the way it had trusted her enough to fall asleep in her arms. Maybe the galaxy was wrong about shadowmaws. Maybe they just needed someone to show them kindness instead of fear. As they reached the ship, the hatchling stirred and looked up at Anna's face. Its golden eyes seemed to hold intelligence, even gratitude. Anna smiled and whispered, "I think I'll call you Scout." Scout purred louder, a sound that somehow made everything feel like it was going to be okay. Even as the ship's communication array started buzzing with incoming messages from across the galaxy, Anna held Scout close and felt something she'd never experienced before. The absolute certainty that she'd made the right choice, no matter what anyone else might say. Scout refused to eat anything for the first 3 days. Anna tried everything she could think of. Protein paste, dried meat, even some of the emergency rations. The little shadowmaw would sniff each offering politely, then turn away and curl up in the corner of Anna's quarters. "It's going to starve itself to death," Pete said during their morning briefing. "Maybe that's for the best." Anna shot him a look. "That's not helpful." "Actually, it would solve many problems," Vorth clicked from his workstation. "The communications array has been busy. Word is spreading about our passenger." Anna had been expecting this. News traveled fast in the galactic communication networks, and a human rescuing a shadowmaw hatchling was the kind of story that would spread like wildfire. She'd been ignoring the incoming messages, but she knew they couldn't stay quiet forever. "What kind of word?" she asked. Crix looked up from his navigation charts. "Panic, mostly. 3 merchant ships have already changed their routes to avoid this sector. The Hegemony Council is calling for an emergency session." Anna sighed. She'd been a xenobiologist for 8 years, and she'd seen this pattern before. Fear always won over science. The galaxy was full of species that had been written off as monsters before anyone bothered to study them properly. A soft, chirping sound came from her quarters. Anna smiled despite everything. Scout had started making that noise whenever he heard her voice, even through the ship's walls. "At least someone's happy to hear me," she muttered. The breakthrough came on the 4th day, completely by accident. Anna was eating her lunch in her quarters, trying to coax Scout to at least drink some water. The hatchling lay on her bed, golden eyes following her every movement but showing no interest in food. Anna was halfway through her sandwich when Scout suddenly lifted his head. His nostrils flared, and for the first time since she'd found him, he looked genuinely interested in something. "What is it, buddy?" Anna asked. Scout stood up on shaky legs and padded over to her. He sniffed at the sandwich, then looked up at her with what could only be described as hope. Anna tore off a small piece of the meat and held it out. Scout sniffed it carefully, then delicately took it from her fingers. He chewed slowly, thoughtfully, then made that purring sound she was growing to love. "You like human food," Anna laughed. "Of course you do." Within an hour, Scout had eaten half her sandwich and was looking around for more. Anna called Pete to bring more human rations. And for the first time since they'd left the planet, Scout seemed truly content. "This doesn't make sense," Vorth observed later, watching Scout happily munch on a protein bar while curled up in Anna's lap. "Shadowmaws are obligate carnivores. They require fresh prey, They cannot digest processed foods. Apparently this one can, Anna said, scratching behind Scout's ears. The hatchling leaned into her touch and closed his eyes blissfully. But that was just the beginning of Scout's impossible behavior. When Crix approached Anna's workstation later that day, Scout immediately stood up and growled. It wasn't the pitiful squeak from the cave. This was a proper growl, low and threatening, that made Crix back away quickly. I was only bringing Dr. Reed her reports, Crix said nervously. It's okay, Scout, Anna said gently. Crix is a friend. Scout looked up at her, then at Crix, then back at her. After a moment, he settled back down, though he kept watching the alien navigator with suspicious eyes. Remarkable, Anna whispered. She'd seen protective behavior in animals before, but never with this level of discrimination. Scout seemed to understand that some people were safe and others weren't. More importantly, he trusted Anna's judgment about which was which. The pattern continued over the next few days. Scout was perfectly calm around Anna and Pete, mildly tolerant of other humans who visited the ship, but clearly aggressive toward any non-human crew members. It was as if he could sense something about humans that other species lacked. It's the pheromones, Anna concluded after running several tests. Humans produce a specific combination of chemical signals that shadow moths find calming. We smell like safety, I guess. That's impossible, Forth protested. Shadow moths attack everyone. There are no recorded cases of peaceful contact. Anna looked down at Scout, who was currently napping with his head on her foot. Maybe nobody ever tried being peaceful first. The real test came when they received an emergency communication from a nearby research station. Their message was brief and terrified. A pack of adult shadow moths had been spotted near their facility. They were requesting immediate evacuation. We're the closest ship, Pete reported. We could be there in 6 hours. Absolutely not, Crix said firmly. We will not take that creature near its own kind. It will alert them to our presence. Anna looked at Scout, who had perked up at the mention of other shadow moths. His ears were forward alert, and she could swear he looked excited. What if it doesn't? Anna asked quietly. What if Scout could help us communicate with them? The silence on the bridge was deafening. Even the ship's background hum seemed quieter. You want to use the hatchling as a translator, Forth said slowly. You want to attempt communication with a pack of apex predators. They're not monsters, Anna insisted. Scout proves that. He's intelligent, emotional, capable of forming bonds. What if the others are too? What if they're just protecting their territory, and no one's ever bothered to ask what they want? Pete rubbed his forehead. Anna, this is crazy. Even for you, this is crazy. The research station has 30 people, Anna said. 30 scientists who are going to die if we don't do something. We can either evacuate them and leave the shadow moths to spread out further, or we can try something new. Scout had been listening to the conversation with obvious interest. Now he stood up and walked to the view screen, placing his small paws against the glass as if trying to see outside. He made a soft whining sound that somehow conveyed longing. He wants to go home, Anna realized. He wants to see his people again. His people want to eat us, Crix pointed out. Maybe, Anna said, picking up Scout and feeling him relax against her. Or maybe they just want their baby back. After another hour of debate, Pete finally gave in. They would go to the research station, but they would stay in orbit and attempt communication from a safe distance. If anything went wrong, they would jump to hyperspace immediately. As they prepared to leave, Anna sat in her quarters with Scout curled up next to her. The little shadow moth seemed to sense that something important was about to happen. He was more alert than usual, his golden eyes bright with intelligence. You know where we're going, don't you? Anna asked softly. Scout looked up at her and made a sound she'd never heard before. It was almost like a question, musical and complex. Anna smiled. Yes, buddy. We're going to find your family. For the first time since she'd found him, Scout's purr was loud enough to hear from across the room. And deep in her heart, Anna knew they were about to change everything the galaxy thought it knew about monsters. The research station hung in space like a metal flower. Its solar collectors spread wide to catch the system's twin suns. Anna could see it on the main viewer as their ship dropped out of hyperspace, and it looked peaceful enough. No signs of damage, no emergency beacons flashing. That's odd, Pete muttered, checking his instruments. I'm not reading any shadow maw heat signatures on the planet's surface. Maybe they moved on, Crix suggested hopefully. Anna held Scout closer to her chest. The hatchling had been restless during the jump to hyperspace, making soft whimpering sounds and pressing against her. Now he was completely still, his large ears twitching as if he was listening for something. "Station Aurora, this is the research vessel Pioneer." Pete spoke into his communication array. "We received your distress call about Shadow Maw activity. Please respond." The reply came immediately. And it wasn't from the station. "Pioneer, this is Admiral Reese of the Terran Defense Force. You are ordered to maintain your current position and prepare for boarding." Anna's blood went cold. The Terran Defense Force was Earth's military arm, and they didn't get involved unless something was seriously wrong. Through the view screen, she could see 3 massive warships uncloaking near the research station. "Pete," she said quietly, "we need to leave. Right now. Pioneer, do not attempt to flee," Admiral Reese's voice continued. "We know about your passenger. Surrender the creature immediately and no harm will come to your crew." Scout made a sound Anna had never heard before. It was low, almost subsonic, and it made her teeth ache. Around the bridge, every piece of equipment with a speaker started vibrating in harmony. "What was that?" Pete asked, his voice shaky. Before Anna could answer, the communication array crackled again. This time the voice was different. Older, with a thick accent Anna didn't recognize. "This is Captain Thorne of the Galactic Council Enforcement Division. The creature aboard your vessel is classified as a Class A biological weapon. By Council Resolution 2847, you are required to surrender it for immediate termination." "Termination," Anna repeated, her voice flat. Scout looked up at her, golden eyes wide and trusting. More ships were appearing on their sensors. A whole fleet representing at least 6 different species. Anna had never seen so many different military vessels in one place. The hegemony's crystalline cruisers, the insectoid ships of Vorth's people, even the massive bioships used by the plant-based Verdani. How did they all get here so fast? Pete wondered aloud. They were waiting, Anna realized. They've been tracking us since we left the planet. The communication array lit up with incoming messages from every ship in the fleet. All of them saying essentially the same thing: surrender, Scout, or be destroyed. Scout himself seemed remarkably calm about the whole situation. He climbed up Anna's chest and perched on her shoulder, looking out at the assembled fleet with what appeared to be curiosity rather than fear. "They're scared of you," Anna told him softly. "An entire fleet of warships, and they're terrified of one little hatchling." "Anna," Pete said urgently, "we need to make a decision. I count 27 ships out there and more are jumping in every few minutes. If we're going to run, it has to be now." Anna looked at the fleet, then down at Scout. The hatchling was making that purring sound again, completely unbothered by the fact that half the galaxy wanted him dead. "Can we reach the planet's surface?" she asked. "What?" Pete spun around in his pilot's seat. "Anna, there are shadow maws down there. Adult ones. That's why the research station called for help in the first place." "No," Anna said, pieces clicking together in her mind. "Think about it. The station isn't damaged. There are no heat signatures on the surface. The shadow maws aren't attacking the station." "Then where are they?" Crix asked. Scout chirped and pointed one small paw toward the planet below. Anna followed his gaze and saw something that made her gasp. In the planet's shadow, barely visible against the darkness of space, were shapes, large organic shapes that were definitely not ships. "They're up here," Anna whispered. "The adult shadow maws are in space." As if her words had summoned them, the shapes began to move. They were huge, easily as large as the smaller warships, and they moved with a grace that no artificial vessel could match. Anna counted at least a dozen, though there might have been more hiding in the planet's shadow. The fleet's communication chatter went from urgent to panicked in seconds. Ships began powering up weapons, and Admiral Reese's voice cut through the chaos. "All vessels, prepare to engage hostile biologics. Do not allow them to reach minimum attack range." "Wait," Anna grabbed Pete's arm. "Look at Scout." The hatchling was standing on her shoulder now, his small body rigid with attention. He was making that subsonic sound again, but this time it was different. Rhythmic, almost musical. And from the darkness of space, the adult shadow maws began to respond. Their own calls echoed through the void, transmitted by some method Anna didn't understand but could feel in her bones. "He's talking to them," she breathed. "Scout is talking to his family." "Anna," Pete said, his voice tight with fear. "The adults are moving. They're heading straight for the fleet." Anna watched the tactical display as the massive creatures began to accelerate. But something was wrong. They weren't spreading out to attack multiple targets. They were staying together, moving in a tight formation directly toward the Pioneer. They're not attacking the fleet, Anna realized. They're coming for Scout. The first energy beams lanced out from the assembled warships, brilliant lines of destruction aimed at the approaching shadow maws. Most of the shots missed, but a few found their marks. Anna expected to see the creatures hurt, maybe killed. Instead, the energy seemed to wash over them harmlessly. Whatever the shadow maws were made of, it absorbed the weapon's fire like a sponge soaking up water. Their hide is energy resistant, Forth observed with scientific detachment. Fascinating. No wonder they're so feared. The lead shadow maw was close enough now for Anna to make out details on the main viewer. It was beautiful in a terrifying way. All flowing curves and midnight black skin that seemed to drink in the light from nearby stars. Its head was elongated, almost draconic, with the same golden eyes as Scout. It's the mother, Anna said with sudden certainty. The one from the cave. She's not dead. Scout's calls became more excited, and he launched himself from Anna's shoulder to press against the view screen. His tiny paws scraped against the transparent aluminum as he tried to reach the approaching adult. They're going to ram us, Pete said, his hands flying over the controls. I'm taking evasive action. No, Anna said firmly. Don't move. Let them approach. Anna, that thing is the size of a battleship. If it hits us at this speed, it won't hit us, Anna said, though she wasn't entirely sure she believed it. Scout is calling to them. They know he's here. The adult shadow maw slowed as it approached, massive limbs stretching out to control its momentum. When it was close enough, Anna could see details that no human had ever witnessed before. The creature's skin wasn't solid black as she'd thought. It was covered in patterns, intricate designs that shifted and flowed like living tattoos. And its eyes, those enormous golden eyes, were looking directly at the Pioneer's bridge, directly at Scout. The hatchling pressed himself harder against the view screen, making desperate whimpering sounds. The adult responded with a call so low and powerful that the ship's hull began to vibrate. She's trying to get to him, Anna whispered. The mother is trying to reach her baby. Around them, the fleet was in chaos. Some ships were still firing uselessly at the energy-resistant shadow maws. Others were trying to get a clear shot at the Pioneer without hitting the massive creature that now hung motionless just meters from their hull. This is Admiral Reese. Pioneer, you have 10 seconds to surrender the biological weapon before we open fire on your position. Anna looked at Scout, pressed against the glass and calling desperately to his mother. She looked at the magnificent creature outside, who had crossed the void of space to find her lost child. And she looked at the fleet of warships ready to destroy them all out of fear and ignorance. Pete, she said quietly, open a channel to all ships. Anna, what are you doing? Something that should have been done a long time ago, she replied. Open the channel. When Pete nodded, Anna took a deep breath and spoke to the assembled fleet. This is Dr. Anna Reed aboard the Pioneer. What you call a biological weapon is actually a lost child trying to get home to his mother. The creatures you're preparing to destroy are a family that's been separated by fear and misunderstanding. I'm going to prove to all of you that shadow maws aren't monsters. They're just afraid like the rest of us. She reached over and activated the ship's external communication array, then held Scout up to the microphone. Say hello to your mom, buddy. Scout's response was immediate and heartbreaking. His call echoed across every ship in the fleet, a sound of pure joy and desperate longing that needed no translation. And from the darkness of space, his mother answered back. The escape happened so fast that Anna barely had time to process it. One moment they were surrounded by warships with Scout pressed against the view screen calling to his mother. The next moment, the massive adult shadow maw had somehow wrapped itself around their ship like a protective cocoon. And they were moving. Where are we going? Pete shouted over the sound of straining engines and hull stress alerts. Anna looked at Scout, who had gone completely silent. The hatchling's eyes were closed, and his small body was perfectly still except for the rapid flutter of his breathing. I think Scout's navigating, she said. The sensation of movement was unlike anything Anna had experienced. They weren't flying so much as being carried, held gently in the grasp of something impossibly large and strong. Through the view screen, she could see glimpses of the adult shadow maw's hide flowing past like black water. Hull integrity holding, Crix reported, his voice tight with stress. But I'm reading massive gravitational distortions. Whatever this creature is doing, it's bending space around us. They don't need ships, Anna realized with wonder. Shadow moths can travel through space naturally. That's how they spread across the galaxy so quickly. The ride lasted for what felt like hours but was probably only minutes. When they finally stopped, Anna was amazed to find herself looking at a system she'd never seen before. 3 orange suns orbited each other in a complex dance, and dozens of small planets and asteroids drifted in the spaces between them. And everywhere she looked, there were shadow moths. They floated in space like living ships, dozens of them, ranging from juveniles the size of shuttles to massive adults that dwarfed battleships. Some were feeding on the mineral-rich asteroids, their mouths opening to reveal not teeth, but complex filtering systems. Others seemed to be playing, chasing each other in spirals around the dancing suns. "It's a nursery," Anna whispered. "This whole system is a shadow moth nursery." Scout opened his eyes and looked around at his people with obvious joy. He chirped excitedly and pressed his paws against the view screen, his tail wagging like an earth puppy's. The adult that had carried them here gently released their ship and moved away, calling to the others in that deep, resonant voice. Within minutes, the Pioneer was surrounded by curious shadow moths of all sizes, all of them making different sounds as they tried to get a look at the strange visitors. "They're not attacking," Pete observed unnecessarily. "They're just looking at us." A young shadow moth, about twice Scout's size, swam up to the view screen and pressed its face against the glass from outside. Scout immediately did the same from inside, and Anna could swear both creatures were grinning. "That must be Scout's sibling," she said. "Look how excited they are to see each other." But not all the shadow moths seemed happy about their presence. A group of the largest adults hung back, watching the ship with obvious suspicion. Their calls were different from the others, deeper and more threatening. "Those are the pack leaders," Anna guessed. "They're not sure about us yet." Scout seemed to understand the situation. He moved away from the view screen and looked up at Anna with those intelligent golden eyes. Then he did something remarkable. He walked to the center of the bridge and sat down, perfectly still, and began to sing. It wasn't the desperate calling he'd done before, or the happy chirping when he saw his family. This was something else entirely. A complex melody that rose and fell in patterns that seemed almost mathematical. Anna felt tears running down her cheeks without knowing why. "What is he doing?" Crix asked softly. "He's telling them about us," Anna realized. "He's telling them what happened. How we found him, how we took care of him, how we brought him home." The effect on the adult shadow moths was immediate. The suspicious ones moved closer, their aggressive postures softening. Scout's mother approached the ship again, and this time her massive head tilted in what Anna could only interpret as curiosity. "She wants to see you," Anna said. "Scout's mother wants to meet the human who saved her baby." Pete looked nervous. "Anna, I don't think our airlocks are big enough for something that size." "We don't need airlocks," Anna said, moving toward the ship's emergency suits. "Shadow moths can survive in space. Maybe humans can survive in whatever field they use for protection." "That's completely theoretical," Vorth protested. "You could be instantly killed by vacuum exposure." Anna was already putting on her suit. "Scout survived in our ship's atmosphere. Maybe the protection works both ways." Scout had stopped singing and was watching her preparations with obvious understanding. When Anna moved toward the airlock, he followed, making encouraging sounds. "If I die," Anna told Pete, "make sure the galaxy knows the truth about what we found here. Shadow moths aren't monsters. They're a family." The airlock cycled, and Anna found herself floating in space with only her emergency suit between her and the void. For a moment, she thought she'd made a terrible mistake. Then Scout's mother approached, moving slowly and carefully. The massive creature extended what Anna could only call a hand, though it was the size of her entire body. Anna reached out and touched it, expecting her suit's radiation alarms to go off or her oxygen to start leaking away. Instead, she felt warmth. Somehow the adult shadow moth was creating a pocket of livable space around both of them. Anna's suit readings showed normal pressure and temperature, as if she was standing in a perfectly controlled environment. Scout's mother looked down at her with those enormous golden eyes, and Anna saw intelligence there. Not animal cunning, but real awareness. The creature was studying her, trying to understand what kind of being would risk everything to save a lost child. Anna slowly removed her helmet, knowing it was either the bravest or stupidest thing she'd ever done. The air around her was warm and slightly humid, with a scent like flowers and ozone. She could breathe perfectly. "Hello," she said simply. "I'm Anna. I've been taking care of your son." The adult shadow moth made a sound that was almost like a purr, but deeper and more complex. Anna felt the vibrations in her bones and somehow she understood. It wasn't words exactly, but meaning flowed between them. Gratitude, relief, a mother's love for her child and appreciation for the stranger who had brought him home. Other shadow maws began to approach, drawn by their leader's acceptance of the small human floating among them. Anna found herself surrounded by creatures that the galaxy feared above all else, and all she felt was wonder. A juvenile shadow maw, curious and playful, swam up to investigate. Anna reached out slowly and touched its snout. The same way she'd first touched Scout. The young creature's purr was like music. "They're beautiful," Anna said, speaking to Scout's mother but meaning it for all of them. "You're all beautiful." Through the ship's communication system, she could hear Pete's voice calling her name, full of worry and amazement. But Anna was focused on something else. In the distance, she could see ships approaching the system. Not warships this time, but smaller vessels. Research ships and cargo haulers drawn by curiosity about the secret Shadow Maw system. "They're coming," Anna told Scout's mother. "Other species are going to find this place. Some of them will be afraid, like the fleet that chased us. Others might want to hurt you or take your children." The adult Shadow Maw's expression changed, becoming more serious. She made a series of calls to the other pack members, and Anna could sense the change in mood throughout the system. The playful atmosphere was replaced by watchful tension. Scout appeared at the airlock, calling urgently. Anna understood immediately. He wanted her to come back inside, to help translate between his people and the approaching strangers. "I know, buddy," Anna said, putting her helmet back on. "We've got work to do." As she returned to the ship, Anna looked back at the gathered shadow maws one more time. They were watching her with expressions she was learning to read. Hope, worry, and something that might have been trust. "Pete," she said over the communication system, "we're about to have visitors, and we need to make sure this first meeting goes better than the last one." Scout chirped in agreement, and somewhere in the distance, his mother sang a song that sounded like a promise. They would protect their nursery, but they would also try to understand these strange new beings who had brought their lost child home. The real test was about to begin. The first research vessel to arrive was piloted by a team of Sithari scientists, their crystalline forms visible through the transparent hull. Anna watched from the Pioneer's bridge as their ship approached the nursery system, moving slowly and broadcasting peaceful intentions on all frequencies. Scout was perched on her shoulder, alert and tense. Around them in space, the adult shadow maws had formed a protective perimeter around the younger members of their pod. They weren't hostile, but they were clearly ready to defend their children if necessary. "The Sithari ship is requesting permission to approach," Pete reported. "They want to observe the shadow maws for scientific purposes." Anna looked at Scout, who tilted his head as if listening to something she couldn't hear. After a moment, he chirped softly and pointed toward his mother, who floated near the largest asteroid cluster. "Scout says it's okay," Anna said, "but I think we should escort them in." The next few hours were unlike anything in recorded galactic history. Anna found herself acting as a translator between species that had never communicated before, using Scout as an intermediary to convey intentions and emotions. The Sithari scientists were fascinated by everything they observed. Through their ship's external speakers, they asked hundreds of questions about shadow maw behavior, diet, social structure, and reproduction. Scout did his best to translate, making different sounds that his mother and the other adults would respond to with demonstrations. "Remarkable," transmitted Dr. Vell, the lead Sithari researcher. "They appear to have a complex mathematical language based on harmonic frequencies. Each individual has a unique tonal signature, like a name." Anna was amazed by how quickly the communication developed. Within hours, Scout had learned to translate basic concepts between the humans and his family. Simple ideas like safe, food, young, and play became part of a growing vocabulary that all three species could understand. But the real breakthrough came when a juvenile shadow maw approached the Sithari ship. The crystalline beings inside recoiled instinctively, their forms flashing with fear colors. The young shadow maw sensed their distress and immediately backed away, making apologetic sounds. Anna watched this interaction with growing understanding. "They're empathic," she said. "Shadow maws can sense emotions from other species. That would explain their aggressive behavior in previous encounters, Dr. Vel noted. If they can sense fear and hostility, they would naturally respond defensively. Scout confirmed this by demonstrating with Pete. When the pilot approached with relaxed, friendly intentions, Scout remained calm and welcoming. But when Pete tried to project authoritative or threatening emotions, Scout immediately became defensive, though he never actually attacked. The key is emotional state, Anna realized. Shadowmaws respond to what you're feeling, not what you're saying or doing. This discovery changed everything about their interactions with the pod. Anna began teaching the visiting scientist techniques she'd learned working with Earth predators. Move slowly, keep your emotions calm and open, never project fear or aggression. The results were astounding. Within days, researchers from multiple species were floating in space alongside adult shadowmaws, protected by the same energy fields Anna had experienced. The massive creatures seemed to enjoy the attention, posing patiently for scanners and even allowing gentle physical contact. But it was the humans who made the deepest connections. Anna noticed it first when Pete was examining a young adult shadowmaw's feeding tentacles. The creature had been injured in some past encounter, and Pete's genuine concern for its well-being seemed to create an instant bond. The shadowmaw began following Pete's ship around the system, like a massive puppy seeking attention from a favorite human. "There's something about us," Anna told the assembled researchers during their daily briefing. "Humans have an ability to connect with shadowmaws that other species don't seem to share. Perhaps it's biochemical," suggested Dr. Vel. "Your species produces unique pheromone combinations, or perhaps it's psychological," added Commander Nix, a military observer from the hegemony. "Humans are known for your unusual emotional range and empathic capabilities." Anna thought about her first meeting with Scout, how her immediate instinct had been to nurture and protect, rather than fear and destroy. "Maybe it's both," she said. "Maybe humans are natural bridge builders." The theory was tested when a group of aggressive Thoraxian traders arrived in the system, demanding the right to harvest shadowmaw genetic material. Their ship's approach immediately triggered defensive responses from the adult pod members, who formed a threatening wall between the traders and the nursery areas. "We claim salvage rights on these biological resources," the Thoraxian captain transmitted, his insectoid voice harsh through the translation system. "Shadowmaw DNA is worth millions of credits on the black market." The adult shadowmaw's response was immediate and terrifying. Their harmonious songs became deep, threatening roars that made the very fabric of space seem to vibrate. Several of the largest adults began moving toward the Thoraxian vessel, their intent clearly hostile. "Anna," Pete called urgently, "we need to do something before this turns into a massacre." Anna looked at Scout, who was trembling with distress. The hatchling could sense the rising anger from both sides, and it was affecting him physically. "Pete, get us between the Thoraxians and the pod. Broadcast on all frequencies." As the Pioneer moved into position, Anna opened a communication channel to both groups. "This is Dr. Anna Reed. Thoraxian vessel, you are threatening children. The Shadowmaws are protecting their young, and they will destroy you if you don't leave immediately." "Humans have no authority in this system," the Thoraxian captain replied. "These creatures are not sentient beings with rights. They are resources to be harvested." Scout made a sound Anna had never heard before, a complex trill that seemed to contain layers of meaning. His mother responded immediately, and suddenly every shadowmaw in the system was singing in harmony. The sound was overwhelming, beautiful, and terrible at the same time. "What are they doing?" Dr. Vel asked in wonder. Anna felt tears streaming down her face as she listened to the chorus. "They're telling their story," she whispered. "The whole history of their species. Their homes, their families, their losses. Everything they've endured." The song continued for nearly an hour, and by the end of it, even the aggressive Thoraxian traders had gone silent. Anna could see their ship's crew through the viewports, standing perfectly still as they listened to something that transcended language. When the song finally ended, the Thoraxian captain's voice was different when he spoke again. Quieter, more uncertain. We did not know," he said. "We believed the stories about mindless predators. We will leave this system immediately." As the Thoraxian ship departed, Anna realized something profound had just happened. The Shadowmaws had shared not just their current emotions, but their entire cultural memory. They had shown the traders not just that they were intelligent, but that they were people. "That's our role." Anna said to Pete as they watched the massive creatures return to their peaceful activities. Humans aren't meant to rule the galaxy or conquer other species. We're meant to help them understand each other. Scout chirped approvingly and nuzzled against her neck. In the distance, his mother sang a simple melody that somehow conveyed agreement and hope. Over the following weeks, more ships arrived in the system. Some came seeking profit, others came out of fear, but many came simply to learn. Anna and her team established the first interspecies communication protocols, using humans as emotional translators between shadow maws and other galactic civilizations. The breakthrough that would change everything came when Scout demonstrated something that left everyone speechless. A damaged research probe had been left floating near one of the asteroids, its power systems failing. Anna watched in amazement as Scout swam over to it and somehow transferred energy from his own body into the probe systems, bringing it back to life. They're not just empathic, Anna breathed. They're symbiotic. Shadow maws can share their life force with other beings. That discovery led to revelations that rewrote galactic science. Shadow maws weren't apex predators in the traditional sense. They were a keystone species, one that naturally formed beneficial relationships with other life forms. Their perceived aggression was actually a protective response, triggered when other species approached with harmful intentions. We've been misunderstanding them for centuries, Anna realized. Every time we met them with fear and weapons, we guaranteed a violent outcome. But when we approached them with open hearts, she gestured to the scene around them, where researchers from a dozen species worked alongside massive shadow maws in perfect harmony. Scout had grown larger during their time in the nursery, but he remained as gentle and playful as ever, serving as an ambassador between his people and the steadily growing community of interspecies researchers. We make friends, Anna finished, and Scout purred his agreement. The Galactic Council chambers had never hosted beings like these before. Anna stood at the center of the massive amphitheater, surrounded by representatives from hundreds of different species. Beside her, Scout had grown to nearly the size of a small shuttle, but he remained as gentle as ever, his golden eyes taking in the assembled delegates with calm intelligence. Behind them, visible through the chamber's transparent walls, Scout's mother and 3 other adult shadow maws floated in the space around the station. Their presence had initially caused panic among the station's security forces, but Anna's patient demonstrations had gradually convinced everyone that the massive creatures posed no threat. "This is unprecedented," declared Chancellor Moore, the elderly hegemony leader who served as the Council's current president. "Never before have we granted full species status to beings we once considered mere predators." Anna felt Scout's warm bulk press against her side, offering comfort and support. Over the past 6 months, their bond had only grown stronger. Scout had learned to understand not just human speech, but human emotions, often anticipating Anna's needs before she was fully aware of them herself. "Honored delegates," Anna began, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's acoustics. "I stand before you today not as a human speaking for shadow maws, but as a translator helping 2 peoples understand each other." She gestured to Scout, who responded by singing a brief, melodic greeting that somehow conveyed respect and peaceful intentions to everyone present, regardless of their species. 6 months ago, the galaxy believed shadow maws were mindless killing machines. Today, we know they are one of the most intelligent and empathetic species ever discovered. They have technology we barely understand, based on biological manipulation of space-time itself. They have art, music, literature, and a moral code that values life above all else. A delegate from the militant Corvin Empire stood up, his armored form bristling with weapons. "Dr. Reed, your discoveries are impressive, but the fact remains that shadow maws have destroyed thousands of ships over the centuries. How do you account for those deaths?" Scout made a low, mournful sound that needed no translation. Anna felt his sadness through their bond, the weight of his species' tragic history. "Commander Thack," Anna replied, "every one of those encounters began the same way. Ships approached shadow maw territory with weapons active, shields raised, and crews radiating fear and aggression. The shadow maws responded to what they perceived as threats to their families." She activated the chamber's holographic display, showing scenes from the past months. Shadow maws working alongside researchers, helping to repair damaged equipment, even sharing their energy fields to protect smaller species from cosmic radiation. When we approach them with open hearts and peaceful intentions, this is what happens. Not violence, but cooperation. Not destruction, but creation. The display showed Scout's most remarkable demonstration, recorded just weeks earlier. A research ship carrying a mixed crew of young scientists had suffered a catastrophic power failure while exploring a dangerous asteroid field. Scout and 2 adult Shadow Maws had surrounded the ship, using their natural abilities to create a stable energy field that kept the crew alive until rescue arrived. The children were afraid, Scout had explained to Anna afterward, using the complex mix of sounds, emotions, and shared memories that had become their common language. Fear makes creatures suffer. We do not like suffering. Now in the council chambers, Anna shared that same simple philosophy. Shadow Maws are not predators in any sense we understand. They're gardeners. They protect life wherever they find it, nurturing young species and helping them grow. The only time they become violent is when they encounter beings who approach them with violence. Chancellor Moore leaned forward in his floating chair. Dr. Reed, you speak of cooperation, but the military implications are staggering. A species that can manipulate space-time, that can share energy fields, that can communicate across vast distances instantaneously. What guarantee do we have that they won't use these abilities against us? Before Anna could answer, Scout moved. The young Shadow Maw glided forward until he was directly in front of the Chancellor's platform, then did something that stunned everyone present. He began to glow. The light started as a soft golden radiance from his skin, then spread outward in complex patterns. Anna had seen this before, but never so intensely. Scout was sharing his memories, his emotions, his very thoughts with everyone in the chamber simultaneously. The assembled delegates gasped as they experienced Scout's perspective directly. His love for Anna, who had saved him when he was dying. His joy at being reunited with his family. His sadness at the fear and misunderstanding between species. His hope for a future where all beings could work together. But most importantly, they felt his fundamental nature. Scout was incapable of causing unnecessary harm. It simply wasn't in him. Violence for its own sake was as alien to him as breathing underwater was to most air-breathing species. When the light faded, the chamber was silent for long minutes. Finally, Chancellor Moore spoke, his voice shaky with emotion. I felt it. The genuine desire for peace. Dr. Reed, this changes everything. Over the next several hours, Anna and Scout worked together to answer questions, demonstrate Shadow Maw abilities, and gradually build understanding between the Council and Scout's people. The adult Shadow Maws outside the station contributed by sharing their own memories and perspectives, creating a multi-layered communication that transcended anything previously thought possible. The breakthrough moment came when Delegate Saris, representing a species that had lost 3 colonies to Shadow Maw encounters, stood to speak. "My people have feared your kind for generations," she said directly to Scout. "We believed you were demons come to devour our children." Scout's response was immediate and profound. He shared the memory of finding his own nursery destroyed, his family scattered and presumed dead. The loss, the confusion, the desperate search for safety that had driven his people to increasingly aggressive behavior. "We feared for our children, too," Anna translated as Scout's emotions washed over the chamber. Both species were protecting their young. The tragedy is that neither side understood what the other was trying to do. Delegate Saris was crying, her crystalline form refracting light in patterns that indicated deep emotional movement. "We were the same," she whispered. "Afraid parents protecting our families. How could we not see?" The vote, when it finally came, was unanimous. The Shadow Maws were granted full species status, with all the rights and protections that entailed. More importantly, they were invited to join the Galactic Council as equal partners in interstellar civilization. But the real victory came in the days that followed, as word spread throughout the galaxy. Human Shadow Maw diplomatic teams were established to help resolve territorial disputes between species. The Shadow Maw's natural empathic abilities, combined with humanity's talent for emotional translation, proved incredibly effective at mediating conflicts. Anna found herself appointed as the first human Shadow Maw ambassador, with Scout as her permanent partner. Together they traveled to worlds torn by misunderstanding, helping species learn to see past their fears and prejudices. Their first major success came in the Rigel system, where 2 species had been locked in a bitter war for decades. Within weeks of Anna and Scout's arrival, the fighting had stopped. The Shadow Maw's ability to share emotional states had allowed both sides to truly understand each other's perspectives for the first time. "We're changing the galaxy," Anna told Scout as they floated together in the peaceful space between the warring worlds, watching former enemies work side by side to repair the damage their conflict had caused. Scout's response was a complex harmony that conveyed agreement, satisfaction, and hope. But Anna understood the deeper meaning through their bond. They weren't changing the galaxy. They were helping it remember what it had always been meant to be: a family. Years later, when Anna was an old woman and Scout had grown to full adult size, she would look back on that first day in the cave and marvel at how a single act of kindness had transformed everything. She had reached out to a frightened child, and in return, that child had shown her species how to reach out to the universe itself. The galaxy was no longer a place where different species viewed each other with suspicion and fear. It had become something unprecedented in galactic history, a true community, where beings from countless worlds worked together for the good of all. And at the heart of it all was the simple truth that Scout had taught them: fear creates monsters, but love creates family. Anna had petted a predator hatchling instead of running away, and that single gesture had changed the fate of countless worlds. In the end, that was the most human thing of all. When faced with something unknown and potentially dangerous, humans didn't always choose fear. Sometimes, remarkably, they chose love instead. And love, as the galaxy was finally learning, was the most powerful force in the universe.